Good evening, Mikhail. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello?
Hello, Svetozar.
Hello, Mikhail. Okay, how are you today?
I'm fine, as
Okay.
usual.
Fine as usual. Good. That's nice that you are fine as usual. Don't you ever feel tired, stressed, depressed?
Rarely, once a week, once a year.
Once a year. And when does it happen?
I don't know. It's just like a never, but not never.
It's like never, but not never.
Yeah.
So very rarely. Well, it can happen, but you never know when it happens.
Yes, something.
Mhm. Anyway, you're still optimistic and you try to see the bright side of the life.
Could you repeat bright title of life?
Yeah, well, as far as I got, so you're an optimistic person and you're always trying to see the bright side of life, the
Yeah.
good side of life, if you wish. Am I right?
Okay. I see. I understand.
Okay, so am I right?
Yes, you're right.
Yes, you are. Okay, good. What news have you got to share with me? So everything is as usual. You have been working. What about films? Did you watch any films yesterday at night?
About Apple. Today's news all about Apple Watch.
Oh, Apple. Okay, Apple. Well, I don't know anything about that. So, no. My question was a little bit different. So, did you see any films? I mean,
No,
not documentaries.
I just the video, one video. It's a YouTube maybe.
You watched a video on YouTube.
YouTube Edward.
I see. I see.
About that.
I see. Okay. Well, let's meet Vitali. Hello to you.
Hello. Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Better say not do you hear me, but can you hear me?
Can you hear? Okay.
I can hear you. Okay. I haven't seen you for a while. Where have you been, Vitali?
Oh, it's just work and nothing more.
Work. You've been working. Okay.
I've been working because I'm sometimes I work at night and I can't be able to be here.
I cannot join you. Okay, you cannot be here. Or I'm not able to be here.
I'm not able to be here.
I see. Okay, good. But still not here, so it means that your schedule has opened up and you have some free time to join our little discussion. Good evening, Valery.
Good evening, Svetozar, Michael, Vitaly.
Hello.
Nice to see you again. So, how was your day, Valery?
It was a hard day.
Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Why was it hard?
Well, the reason for that is that I have got insomnia.
Oh.
So during the week I can sleep for 4 or 5 hours.
What happens?
Nothing. Just it's my habit or inclination to have insomnia during the week.
Oh.
And then when the weekend comes, I can compensate that by sleeping for 11, 12 hours.
I see. Another student of mine to whom I teach French the other day told me something similar. He usually has this insomnia problem on Sunday. So he said that it always happens. He can never fall asleep when he goes to bed on Sunday. And well, I was trying to understand why. Perhaps it's because of the Monday that is coming, and he feels like he has to get up the next morning. So maybe your insomnia is connected with some stress at work.
Not really.
No.
Besides, I love surfing the internet, so that can be a reason. Yes, I like surfing the net. Socializing in some social networks and watching movies.
Okay, in English, I suppose.
Only in English.
Only English. Okay. When was the last movie you watched in English?
I rewatched The House of Wax.
The House of Wax?
Wax.
What was it about?
I recommend you to watch this movie. It stars Paris Hilton, So it's a horror film, or not horror, it's a thriller film about a group of young people who go to the American countryside. So they find themselves in a deep countryside where there are some strange people, and they see an empty town where there are only wax figures around them.
Okay.
So you can guess what is inside those wax figures.
Yeah, okay.
There is a flesh, you know. They used to be people. So there is a gang of maniacs who kill people and make wax figures for different museums.
Are you really into these kind of movies?
I am.
Okay.
It tickles my nerves, you know. It's not.
I wouldn't say if I didn't know, if you didn't tell, so I wouldn't even, I don't know, say that you are into such kind of movies, but it's interesting to know. Okay, thank you. Let's greet Althea. Hello, Althea, to you.
Hi.
How are you feeling? Are you feeling great as usual?
Yeah.
How was your day? Did you sleep last night well, or you also had some insomnia problems?
I always haven't no problems.
I never had problems with sleeping.
Yes, I never have no problems. So.
Well, you can say you got me lost. So I never have any problems with sleeping. I never have problems.
I never have any problems with sleeping.
Okay, yeah. So when you go to bed, you fall asleep, and you sleep or just I don't know, deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Good. And what about your day? Was it hard? Was it easy? How was the day?
It was not bad. It was one of the good days.
One of the best days. You mean one of the best days in your life?
Yeah, not in my life, but in our days.
In nowadays. Well, okay. So it has been a great day. Good. Nice to hear that. Okay, guys. So today, actually, we will talk about books, and we will listen to unusual podcast. It will be about book group. So in this podcast, some issues will be discussed, such as what is difficult, what kind of difficulties people face when reading books in English or in other foreign languages, but particularly in English. We will also have a virtual trip to Moscow, and we will visit a book club there. And students will share their experience about their reading, how they started doing that, what they like, what they don't like, actually what pushed them towards doing that. And I have a kind of an idea. I don't know if we will have it, if I'll have it realized, but I hope I will. So there is a kind of a series of this podcast dedicated to this book group. And after that, once we have finished all the podcasts dedicated to this very topic, I'd like to make up a kind of a reading group here online. So I will choose a book, and I will give you some chapters to read, and you will have a kind of a week to read that. And in a week, a week after that, we will have a discussion about that part you read. So there is just what I have planned, but we'll see how it'll go. First, today, so we will listen to this first podcast of the series about book group. And before listening to the podcast itself, I'd like to ask you some questions, as usual. So, first question, Vitaly, for you. Have you got a big personal library at home?
No, I don't.
You don't?
I haven't, yes. But I want to do it in the future, because especially I want to add some English books. I really want to start reading English, but I started. I have one experience. I had one experience with it, but I really have big problems with reading, because it's a lot of words I don't know, and that is why I can't.
Okay, you stopped reading because it was too difficult. Okay, we will listen today to this podcast. Maybe it will help you to understand something and will help you to restart doing that. So for now, you don't have a very big library. What about you, Althea? Have you got a big personal home library? I mean, the number of books you like to read, to reread, perhaps.
Yes, I have a lot of books, especially English books.
Really?
But yeah,
Do you?
I get all books where I see.
So you buy every book you see. Okay.
Yeah, in English.
Are you in habit of buying books or buying and reading?
The first I buy, and I begin to read the first several pages. Yeah. Then I forgot.
And you stop reading. Okay. You never finish a book. Don't you?
Almost.
Okay, so in the majority of cases you never finish the book. So you start reading it and then quit. Why do you quit? So because it's difficult or because it's boring? You don't like the book, the plot, or there is something that makes you stop reading. What's that?
Maybe I have not time. Maybe that's why.
I have no time. Yeah.
Yes, I have no time.
I have no time, or maybe because I don't have enough time for reading. Okay, I see. Okay, good. Valery, what about you? I guess you've got a big library.
My wife has got a big library. Most of them are Russian books. Most of them are books in Russian, in the Russian language.
Okay.
As for my personal collection, I've got about 20 English books.
Really? Oh, yeah. And you have read all of them?
Yes, I have. So they are books mainly by Irvin Shaw, John Grisham, and another author. So these are my favorite writers.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So American writer, I guess.
Yeah, American.
Okay. And what is your favorite book by John Grisham?
John Grisham.
From your personal collection.
Well, the name has slipped from my memory.
You can just tell a few sentences.
Painted House, I guess.
Painted House.
Yeah.
Okay.
About farmers in the American countryside.
I see. Okay. Thank you. Mikhail, what about you? Do you have many books at home? Mikhail? Have you got many books at home?
Maybe two. Maybe two.
2 books.
100 maybe books.
100. I thought there were only 2 books at home. No.
But I read paper book very
rarely.
Rarely, because I
prefer
I have a lot of books. It's e-books on my phone, or
I prefer reading e-books.
Yes, I prefer it.
Say it, please. I prefer reading e-books.
I prefer reading e-books. It's more simple for me to download, and you can choose any books you see in the internet. And
okay, I see. Yeah, e-books are very popular nowadays, and of course we discussed already, as we talked about. They are like less expensive. We can find any books we want, for sure. Still, well, another question. Well, perhaps a little bit difficult question to answer, but maybe some of you remembers the moment when you first realized that you could read. Who remembers that moment? Althea, do you remember? The moment when you first you realized, I can read, and you just took a book and started reading. You remember that moment?
Actually, I don't remember, but I learned English. Как там было давно?
Sorry? I've been learning English for long.
Yeah, yeah.
I've been learning English for long.
I've been learning English for long. So then
okay, sorry. Well, my question concerns not obligatory English, like you can write in English. I mean, read in your mother tongue as well, in Russian or I don't know in Ukrainian. So it depends. So I mean, do you remember the moment when you realized you could read in general? You know, just put.
In general. Yes, I remember. It was when I was at 84. Yeah.
Sorry, 84. And how old are you now?
No.
You look really young for 84. Just when you were 4 or 8. What do you want to say?
Well, I remember that at that time it was when I was 15. 15, yeah.
15, you mean?
Yeah.
So you learned to read when you were 15. How did you? I mean, it's not about English. I guess you think that my question concerns English, not reading in English, reading in Russian, in Ukrainian, if it's your mother tongue. You know? Do you understand the question or not?
In general, you mean?
Yeah, in general, like children, they get a book and they say, "Hello, my name is," and so on. So that's it. But I have just imitated it a little bit like in English. But you can. Children start reading usually, I don't know, at 4, 5, 6, it depends. Do you remember the moment when you first realized, I can read? You don't?
No, I don't remember.
Okay, that is the answer, so you don't remember. What about you? Do you remember that moment when you first realized that you could read?
I don't remember the time, but I remember when I was at school, and that there is a speed and technique test, and how you can speed how quickly you can read.
So
and how many words? Yes, and I remember this situation. I was not bad, and it was very good. And after this situation, I tried to read more and more because I liked it, and the teacher said me very good words about my reading, and I was appreciated, and I
so
continue to read. Yes.
Okay, it gave you kind of a push towards reading.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, there is a good motivation if a teacher has said some good words to you. Okay, Valery, do you remember? As far as I know, you've got children. Oh, child. Valery, microphone is off. Could you switch it on, please?
Could you repeat, please?
Yeah. As far as I remember, you have either children or children.
Yeah, I have a son.
One children.
Yes, one child. Yes, one child.
So, how old is he?
He will turn 2 years old.
Okay, so
later in September.
But I guess he can read.
No way.
Not yet.
Not yet, and he barely could speak some words.
Pronounce
so he can't speak really. Not yet.
Do you read for your son? I mean, some fairy tales or sometimes?
Just sometimes, but my wife reads some books mainly for him. So it's her responsibility. Yeah. In Russian, of course.
Russian. Okay. So I guess you should read for him in English, so that he gets used to that. But
yeah, I'm too lazy for that.
Oh.
Or I don't see the point.
Well, I wouldn't say Valery and lazy. These things that don't go together. I would say so. Okay, good. So another question. What kind of books do you enjoy reading in English? So, okay, you said that you don't miss an opportunity to buy an English book. So, what kind of book do you enjoy buying and then perhaps reading? I mean, what genre of books do you like? Romance, detective story, historical novel, some short stories, poems perhaps?
Detective stories and
Stories.
yeah, historical stories also.
And historical novels, perhaps. Mm-hmm. I see. What about you, Vitali? So you said that you didn't have many books at home. However, you like to do that. So what kind of books are you
No, I didn't understand your question. I have a lot of books, but it's not mine. I mean, mine own books I don't have a lot of. But in my house, but it's my parents' books. I have a lot of them.
Okay, good. So what kind of books are you interested if it is about books in English?
So it depends, because if I learn if I read in English, so it's because in sense that I'm learning. But if we are speaking about my my interesting favorite books, it's another, because when when I read English books, it was difficult.
Sorry. When I read, you mean in general? Not
read, yes.
But when I read an English book.
No, I mean when I had an experience of reading, and I read some detective, and it was hard for me. Detective story, and that is why I was searching in internet, on the internet, and it says me that better read some I don't know, some like fantastic or something, because it's what?
Science fiction.
Yeah, science fiction. Yes, it's better because of films. I mean, a lot of these books have film, and you can watch it before, and you can know the sense of these books, and that is why it's better for you. But I don't know. I want to try it, but I don't know.
Okay, I see. So you found some recommendations to first read books, because there are many films that were shot after that books, and it is interesting to compare sometimes. Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Good. Well, what are problems when reading a book in a foreign language? Not only English, perhaps in French, in Italian, German, but I guess you have an experience of reading books in English. So what are the major problems when reading a book in a foreign language, Valery?
Well, the major problem for an intermediate learner is how to deal with vocabulary. When reading, you face a massive amount of new words in a book, and if you start using a dictionary and look for every word that you don't know, that might discourage you, and then you will lose any interest in reading a book further. So my recommendation is to get to the main idea, to get the general idea, and not to waste time, Yes, looking up some words in the dictionary.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Well, actually, yeah, you are absolutely right about that, because it's one of the problems people face when reading, and it destroys the pleasure of reading, the process of reading, and people really get discouraged very soon and just stop reading and look for another book to buy. Right, Althea?
Yeah.
I agree with me. That is one of the most widespread, I would say, problems, common problems learners have when reading in English. This vocabulary problem. So it's a good idea just to try to understand the meaning of the word, even if you don't know it, in the context. Sometimes it's a good thing to consult a dictionary if the word repeats for several times and it is kind of a keyword, but still try to enjoy reading and not consult the dictionary all the time, each second. Okay, well, there is one of, maybe there are other problems. Well, Valeria has mentioned just the first one, the most the major one. Could you name any other reasons? Not reasons, sorry, problems, Dari?
So this is problem like I told before. I mean that you need to choose one book what you will be interested in it, and will be fine for you, and it's more clear for you to understand it.
Clearer for you to understand it. Okay, so first to have to choose the right book. It's actually another good piece of advice, because sometimes people choose the wrong book. The book there is not their type. And so they think that all the English books are boring, so I won't do that, so no, I will never do that, so I will just stop, and then I come back to reading in English. But the good thing is just to search for the right book and enjoy the reading. Okay, another question for you.
May I one question, Svetozar?
May I ask a question, for sure.
Yeah. What about adopted books or not adopted books? What kind of books we must choose?
Shall we choose, or
Shall we choose?
Well, it's up to you to decide. If you want some simple version, you can look for some easier versions. There are some books in original. I don't get quite a question. What do you mean? Is it a good thing to read in?
More useful, I mean.
Sorry?
More useful.
Well, if it's too difficult for you to read in original at once, of course you can choose some books with easy versions, like simplified if you wish. So that wouldn't be bad for you, no way. It's okay just to start with. Why not?
What is the difference if I don't know some words in as well as in origin or as adopted books?
What is the difference?
Yeah, if I don't know a lot of words in this way and also in this way.
Simple version for sure. There will be less complicated structures. And sometimes, you know, there are books that you can find in a bookstore, and there are different levels even. So you can choose a level, and that level like intermediate, upper intermediate, advanced, and so on. So you can choose one of the book according to the level you wish, and of course the book you choose. Well, if it is, for example, pre-intermediate or even beginner, you can try, and you will see that it won't be that difficult as a book dedicated for or written for or adopted for upper intermediate level, for example. So have you never come across books like in bookstore? I mean, in English, for example, well, with some different levels, pre-intermediate, intermediate, advanced? No. Okay.
No.
So I guess it is possible to find such books. Just drop into one of the bookstore and ask for books in English, and you will have a possibility to read a more simplified version, and it will help you to understand better the plot of the book. That'll be the difference. So if it is the question of yours, so of course it can be easier, much easier. You can start from easier books and then step by step pass to more complicated ones. Okay?
Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, good. And the last question before we start listening to the podcast. So what is the value of reading the book in original and also then having a possibility to discuss it with other readers, well, with people who read the book? So what is this value? What is nice about that? To read a book in original and then have a possibility to discuss it with other readers. Valery, do you like discussing the plot of the book with someone else?
Well, if it concerns books in English, it's really hard for me to find such people who I can discuss such a book.
Okay, let it be. Okay, if it's not in English, if it's just any book in your mother tongue, in Russian, for example.
Russian.
Like
you know, nowadays people don't discuss books which they read.
What about films?
It's more likely to discuss films. Right?
You like discussing films?
Yeah. So from time to time I like discussing films with my colleagues or my brother. So we exchange our impressions and give some recommendations to each other, which film to watch at the next weekend.
I see. Okay. And what do you feel when sharing your impressions with your friends or brother?
Well, I feel delighted to share my good impressions, and so I want other people to watch and estimate that film, and it's kind of interesting for me to compare my impressions and to see if our tastes coincide, you know.
And if they don't?
If they don't, so it's their right.
I mean, doesn't it bother you? Doesn't it make you angry if your opinion is different from your friends or from your brothers?
Not at all. Not at all.
Okay. I think it's any arguments about
tastes differ, so I don't insist on my point of view.
Okay.
So I respect other people's opinion, and just I like to get to know other people's opinion.
Okay.
Yes, and just.
Well, okay, thank you. Thanks a lot for it. Vitaly, what about you? Do you like discussing films or books with people?
Yes, of course. Of course, if it's new book or new films, of course it's about films. I agree with Larry that nowadays it's not very popular to read. So we don't have to discuss what we'll discuss if we don't read anymore. So this is problem, yes, I think, and of course I like to discuss, especially when I go to the cinema with my friends and or relatives or girlfriends, and after this I like because it's girlfriend.
Girlfriends. Got several. Okay, you know that the class is recording.
I ask Evgeny. I ask Evgeny that this moment is clear.
No, it's not possible.
So and after this, because we have very I don't know how it's free meaning of film, and it's better to discuss after films. Just I mean when you go out from the cinema, it's better to discuss in that moment because you have fresh impressions. Sorry, because
fresh impressions.
Yes.
Yeah, of course. So it's much more interesting to discuss, to have this discussion just after having seen the movie. Okay, good. Thank you, Althea. Do you discuss films with people, friends, brother? I don't know, with different people.
Yes. When we see together. When we watch together.
Does a discussion of the about the movie you've seen help you to understand better the plot sometimes? So when you discuss the movie with a friend of yours, the movie you've seen, does it help you to understand better the story, the plot, some characters' behavior, and so on?
I can't catch your question.
You can't get my question.
Yeah.
So when you discuss a film, a plot of the film, okay, does it help you to understand better? Okay. Well, for example, when you watch a film on your own, you have just your own impressions. When you discuss the movie, your friends share their impressions, and sometimes those impressions, as for me, can help you to understand something better, you know, something from the film. Why that character did that way and he didn't do another way. Sometimes that can help you to find answers to questions you've got after watching the movie. Because as for me, I sometimes cannot get some particular moments, and if there is a friend of mine just sitting by my side in the cinema, so I can ask about something, and that can help me to understand better the plot of the movie. Is it same for you?
Actually, as for me, it happened with me before the end of the film.
Before the end of the film?
Yeah.
So you mean that your friends?
So when we are watching the film, so in the process.
Yeah.
Yes. In the process when we are watching the film, some moments I can't understand.
You cannot understand some particular moments, and your friends can help you to understand them better.
Sometimes, yes, or I can help him, or so.
I can help them to understand something better, or they can help you to understand better. I see. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thanks a lot for sharing your ideas and impressions about what you think about commenting on movie and having a discussion about the plot of a movie or a book. Actually, let's come back to books, because we have passed a little bit in another direction and started discussing movies and films. However, books and films are really very interconnected and close to each other. So now I will make you listen to a record, to a podcast. So we will listen to it in parts, of course. And just a second, please. And we will discuss it little by little. Okay. So get ready to listen, and let's get started.
BBC LearningEnglish.com presents Talk About English, a series of radio features that support your English language studies.
You're listening to The Reading Group from BBC World Service. In this series, we bring together listeners, students of English, literature teachers, and other contributors from the world of books to share their enthusiasm for reading. We hope that following this series will encourage your own interest in reading books in English as a foreign language.
Hello. I don't know if you remember the moment you first realised you could read. I can't. But for the Argentinian writer Alberto Manguel, it was a dramatic event.
One day, from the window of a car, I saw a billboard by the side of the road. The sight could not have lasted very long, just perhaps long enough for me to see, large and looming, shapes similar to those in my storybook, but shapes that I had never seen before. And yet, all of a sudden, I knew what they were. I heard them in my head. They metamorphosed from black lines and white spaces into a solid, sonorous, meaningful reality. Since I could turn bare lines into living reality, I was all-powerful. I could read.
From Alberto Manguel's A History of Reading. This book is a wonderful account of our love affair with written words, from the first known writing, marks made in tiny clay tablets over 6,000 years ago in the Middle East, to today's electronic media. Well, the enjoyment of reading is the subject of this series. In particular, the enjoyment of reading books in English as a second or foreign language. We'll also offer strategies for improving your reading, and we'll give details of how to contact us at the end of each programme. We begin today with a discussion about what it feels like for students to read in English and how to deal with some of the difficulties. Annemarit van der Made is from the Netherlands, where she graduated recently from the University of Technology in Delft. Hello.
Hello. One of my earliest memories of books date back to my first school days, coming home, having a cup of tea while my mother was reading me a book.
Adrian Sack is a journalist from Argentina. Hello.
Hello. I'm working here in London as a freelance reporter for one of Argentina's leading newspapers, La Nación. I'm also writing a history book in Spanish.
And our third guest is Jeremy Page.
Hello, I'm the Director of Studies at International House, a language school in London. I've written several English language teaching course books, and I've also published poetry and short stories.
Annemarit and Adrian.
Okay, so let's discuss the first passage of the podcast. So who are the three people who are invited to participate in the program? The first one is Vitali. Who is the first person invited?
The first person, it was a girl,
and where does she come from?
Really, I don't remember.
Okay, who can help herself here? Why are you smiling in this mysterious way?
I remember that the second one and the third one.
Okay, so tell us who is the second one.
She was a reporter.
The second one is a man, if I'm not mistaken.
A man? From who was writing Spanish books?
Well, there is a masculine voice. It's not a female one, I guess. Okay, so that person. Okay, either a man or a woman. Actually, it is a man. So, where does he come from? And what's his job? What does he do?
A reporter.
He's a reporter, and he's writing for what kind of magazine or maybe newspaper?
A newspaper.
So he's working for a newspaper, English newspaper, Ukrainian newspaper,
Argentinian
newspaper.
In Spanish.
And where that he writes in Spanish.
Spanish.
No, for Argentinian, but they speak Spanish there. Like Spanish. Okay, good. Who is the first person, Valery?
It's a Dutch girl, I think, yeah, from the Netherlands. But I didn't catch her occupation, what she does.
Did she mention that?
Maybe she didn't mention.
Something about studies, perhaps. Okay, we'll listen once again. I don't remember either. Well, if I'm not mistaken, she says something about studies, perhaps not. Okay, and who is the third person? Vitali, didn't you catch that information?
The third. Oh, I heard, but I forget. Really, I forget.
Okay, don't forget, please, when listening, try to take note. Just something, okay? Just keywords. Of course, it's impossible because they speak too fast. But try just to put even the part of the word. You know, the beginning, like reporter, R-E, or like student, S-T. That'll be enough just for you to understand afterwards, like to refresh in your mind when discussing. Okay? Yeah, Alfia, you've got a question?
But it doesn't help me.
It doesn't help you to remember afterwards because you're not used to do it. So you have just to get used to it, and it's very important, especially if you plan to pass some examinations in English. It's really it's a must because without it you won't be able to keep all the information while listening to some audio files. Okay. It will. Just keep on trying, and one day you will understand, oh, it works. I can do that. So, about that, so who is the third person? Valery, could you tell us? No,
it's a miracle because took a couple of minutes ago I remembered the person. now I don't.
The
same. Okay, let's
shame on me.
It's okay. Well, too late. I do understand. It's not that easy after a hard working day. Okay, let's listen once again to this part.
Well, the enjoyment of reading is the subject of this quiz. We'll also offer strategies for improving your reading, and we'll give details of how to contact us at the end of each programme. We begin today with a discussion about what it feels like for students to read in English and how to deal with some of the difficulties. Annemarit van der Made is from the Netherlands, where she graduated recently from the University of Technology in Delft. Hello.
Hello. One of my earliest memories of books date back to my first school days, coming home, having a cup of tea while my mother was reading me a book.
Adrián Sack is a journalist from Argentina. Hello.
Hello. I'm working here in London as a freelance reporter for one of Argentina's leading newspapers, La Nación. I'm also writing a history book in Spanish.
And our third guest is Jeremy Page.
Hello, I'm the Director of Studies at International House, a language school in London. I've written several English language teaching course books, and I've also published poetry and short stories.
Okay, so let's discuss quickly, not to forget. Command number 1 is a girl, and she's an ex-student, yeah?
Yeah, she's a graduate.
Yeah, she's a graduate, so graduated from the university. And so, well, we said about the first guest, and there is an Argentinian journalist, freelance journalist, who writes for an Argentinian newspaper, or for London newspaper.
For Argentina's newspaper.
But where does he work? Does he work in Argentina or?
He's working in London as a freelance reporter.
What is the name of the newspaper? Who remembers?
The name?
Yeah. La Nación, like nation, La Nación. But okay, it's too much detail. And what about the third person, Vitali? So who's that man?
If I understand right, he is a teacher in a school, in a university, yes, and he teaches several languages, right?
Well, not really. He's not a teacher. He's a director of.
Director. Oh, okay.
He's director of studies at International House of some language school. But what has he done? What got into the literature to writing? Has he written anything?
Yeah, he's a writer of several English learning books.
Exactly.
And he's also a poet, so he has written some poetry.
Poetry. Oh, okay, that's right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So he can say he is a director of the International House of Languages, School Languages. Languages School, sorry, and also a writer and a poet. Good. So now let's go on.
And Adrian, questions for you first. What kind of books do you enjoy reading in English?
I enjoy several kind of books. I like romances, crime fiction, and short stories.
Oh, just a second. Could you please switch off your microphones because I can hear some breathing.
Okay.
It's here. Okay. Good. So let's go on. So they share about what kind of books they like.
Argentina's leading newspapers.
Crime fiction and.
You first. What kind of books do you enjoy reading in English?
I enjoy several kind of books. I like romances, crime fiction, and short stories. I recently read Joanna Harris' books. They are novels, and I think she's very good at describing the scenery and personal behavior. When something very exciting happens, I really feel like telling the character, don't do this or don't do that. I can be swallowed by the book.
What about some of the problems, though, of reading in a different language?
Okay, before listening to what they would say about problems when reading a book in English, let's discuss what kind of books does that girl like reading? Does she what kind of book does she enjoy reading, and why? So, Althea, you've been taking notes, I guess.
Yes, she likes a lot of kind. She enjoys with reading a lot of kinds of books.
Reading. She enjoys reading. Can you say what?
She enjoys reading.
You say what kind of books?
A lot of kind of books.
She enjoys reading.
Such as novels.
Okay.
Romance. And exciting books.
Exciting.
Also.
Okay. And why does she like reading those kind of books, Vitali? When she reads, what is the way she feels? How does
so
she?
I think she told that she feels she feel this book or something or something. Do that. Do another.
She's really involved in. Really, she's swallowed by the book, so she gets really involved in the plot, and she worries about characters. And when reading, she feels like saying, do that, don't do that. Well, like address herself to.
I see.
So that it means that she really is swallowed by the book. It means that the book swallows her. You know what to swallow means? So when you eat something, first you chew and then you swallow. So the book swallows her. She is swallowed by the book. So and she said that it is due to the fact that that writer she likes, I don't remember the name, is really good one. So for that reason, she likes him, perhaps, or that author in particular. Okay, now we'll listen to those guests, to what they will say about problems that people encounter when reading books in original in English. So let's continue. Okay.
Well, the two main
I can be swallowed by the book.
What about some of the problems, though, of reading in a different language? Adrian?
Well, the two main problems are the lack of vocabulary and the trend to lose the concentration, my concentration, when I read for long, due to the extra effort I have to make when I read.
Well, I agree with Adrian that it's more difficult to stay focused on a book. For example, when you're tired and you're reading, and I'm reading an English book, it's more difficult to stay focused. And apart from that, some writers use slang that I'm not familiar with. And when I read Jane Eyre, I read it recently. This book has been written 150 years ago, and sometimes they put the words in a different order. So that was interesting, but it was confusing at times.
Well, let's bring...
Okay, so let's discuss this very part. Valeri, could you tell us what are the main two major problems mentioned by two guests?
So the Argentinian reporter said that it's difficult for him to read English books due to vocabulary, so it's really hard to understand and to understand some new words. And the second problem arises from the first one, due to extra effort that he has to make, then he loses his concentration, focus on what he's reading.
Okay,
So,
that's right.
Yes. Yeah.
And good, thank you. Well, we've got Evgeny has joined our discussion, perhaps. Evgeny, are you here? Maybe yes, maybe not. Okay, anyway. So, Althea, what did graduate from the university from Netherlands said us about problems when reading a book? So she agrees with the Argentinian reporter, but she also added something else. What did she add?
Could you repeat?
Yeah. Well, the question is about that girl from Netherlands. So, what did she add to what Argentinian reporter has said about problems when reading a foreign book in English? She agrees with him. That is vocabulary and
also the slang.
Sorry.
Slang.
Okay. So another problem readers encounter when reading a foreign book is slang.
Yeah.
Okay, good. That's right. So there is a keyword, you have put it down. Good. So slang vocabulary that is sometimes present in certain books. And also, what did she say? She said something else. What else she said? What else did she mention?
She mentioned that she had read Jane Eyre, or had tried to read it.
Yeah,
but actually, it's an old-fashioned book written, in the 19th century, and of course, there is another word order that it was confusing for her.
That's right. Exactly. So she said.
But she told it's very interesting but confusing.
Exactly. That's right. So she said she added it was interesting, however, sometimes a little bit confusing. Good. Thanks a lot. Let's continue.
Jeremy into the conversation now. Jeremy, in your experience, do you find that what Anna Marit and Adrian have described are typical problems for learners of English when reading in English?
Very much so, yes. I think the key problems that most readers experience are to do with unknown vocabulary and to do with the length of the text. And for me, the critical issues really are selection of text in the first place. I think for most students, for most readers, it makes no sense to choose something that you would never dream of reading in your own language. And secondly, length, I think, is a critical issue as well. That it can be difficult to maintain focus and motivation. And generally speaking, I think texts up to about 200 pages are probably fine. Texts longer than that, I think, require a degree of commitment that can be quite difficult to sustain.
And what advice do you have for students for dealing with unknown vocabulary?
Well, it's interesting that should be raised, because at the moment, actually, I'm sort of going through something fairly similar with my son, who's 9, who's reading Harry Potter, and he is coming across a lot of vocabulary that's unknown to him. And what I've been suggesting that he do is try to actually make a judgment about vocabulary, words that he really needs to know, words that would be helpful for him to know, and words that he doesn't really need to worry about. And I think for students of English, typically they will be accustomed to being told by teachers, you don't need to understand every word. And in my experience, students often look a little bit sceptical when they're told you don't need to understand every word in a classroom. But when you're actually reading a text on your own in isolation, I think that can be difficult. It can be difficult to come across a large number of words that are completely unfamiliar to you. But I would say, if you feel constantly in need of checking words in dictionaries, then probably the selection of text has been wrong in the first place. The text is too challenging, it's too difficult. Because going to the dictionary all the time, for me, destroys the pleasure of reading.
Okay, so his passage hasn't been very easy, perhaps, to understand. He's been speaking too fast, but still, I guess you have
very fast.
and you have got maybe the main ideas. So, first of all, what was his opinion about what Jeremy and that girl said about difficulties? Does he agree with them or he disagrees? That's our first question. Vitaly.
He agreed.
Does he agree or disagree on what 2 other guests said about difficulties when reading a foreign book in English?
I guess because I really guess. I think he agree with them.
He agreed.
Yes.
Okay, the first question. Good. Well, then, second question: does he have any children?
Yes, he has a boy, 9 years old.
He's got a son who's 9. Good. So, and Althea, what is his son reading at this moment? Well, I mean, in this moment when he speaks, at that period of time, he says, "So my son is now reading." What was the book mentioned? Have you got that? The title of the book, very well known recently. Well. Nope. No, you don't remember? You didn't catch?
No.
But it was about Harry Potter. Okay, so Harry Potter. Anyway, well, it's not that important. Just maybe you heard it. I wanted you to answer the question. And so, what is his advice he gave for those who want to improve their reading skills and actually who want to enjoy the reading process? Validi.
So he said that he made the point that one shouldn't look up every word in a dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
So because that will slow down the process, and just enjoy reading and try to guess the meaning from the context.
Okay, and there was another thing. Well, he was talking about his son. What did he say about vocabulary? Dividing vocabulary into 3 categories or 3 groups. Did you get that part?
No.
Okay, let's listen once again. I want you to get it. Just a second.
They will be accustomed to being told is try to actually make it fairly similar with my son, who's 9, who's reading Harry Potter, and he is coming across a lot of vocabulary that's unknown to him. And what I've been suggesting that he do is try to actually make a judgment about vocabulary, words that he really needs to know, words that would be helpful for him to know, and words that he doesn't really need to worry about.
Okay. So
his son divided the new vocabulary into 3 categories. The first category is the words that he really needs to know. The second category is words which are desirable for him to know, but not necessarily. And the third category is the words which he doesn't need to know.
He doesn't need to know, and he shouldn't worry about.
Yeah, shouldn't worry.
That's right. Okay, well, there is actually a good thing to do, and he said exactly the same thing we discussed at the beginning of the class, that you shouldn't go to the dictionary because it can destroy the pleasure of reading. Okay, good. Okay, let's listen a little bit more.
And I think for students of English, typically they will be accustomed to, then probably the selection of text has been wrong in the first place. The text is too challenging, it's too difficult. Because going to the dictionary all the time, for me, destroys the pleasure of reading. It's not what reading is about, and I don't think it's what should be happening.
Thank you. I'll be asking you for more advice later, Jeremy. Now, before this series began, we asked users of the BBC's Learning English website to share their views on reading. And what stands out in their messages is that classic books, especially those written in the 19th century, such as Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte and Great Expectations by Charles Dickens, are especially difficult because of the style and complex plots. Now, this view is echoed by readers in Moscow, where we go now. Reading Group reporter Dasha Pushkova has been to the planning meeting of an English-language newspaper published in the Russian capital. The editorial team are discussing an issue about reading books in English.
I'm in the editorial building of a newspaper called English. It promotes the language, gives tips, and helps students with difficulties they might have while learning English. I'm here to meet a group of young enthusiasts who are members of the YES Club, which stands for Youth English Section. They write their own page in the newspaper. For these young people, it's a chance to improve their language, read in English, and to talk about the books they've been reading. Today's planning meeting is devoted to some of the difficulties of reading in English and how to inspire the subscribers of the newspaper to read in a foreign language.
We should make our readers believe that it's much more interesting and much more really important to read English, British or American literature in a regional, because in Russian it's just totally different thing.
Last summer I read The Lord of the Rings by John Ronald Tolkien for my pleasure, just because I like this. I like this book. Many years ago I read it first, and I didn't have any possibility. I didn't have a chance, and I didn't have, well, frankly speaking, I didn't have desire to read it in English. But last summer I decided that, well, if you like a book written by an English author, then you must read it in English. It's high time to read it in English. That's why, well, I made this effort. I read it, and I understood the meaning and the plot of the author much better than when I read it in Russian.
The editorial team agrees that there are many benefits to be gained from reading an English book in the original language, but one of the major problems that readers face concerns the choice of vocabulary.
Slang and some peculiarities of the country. For example, breakfast at Tiffany's by Truman Capote. So it's full of such things. Fortunately, I had a kind of vocabulary in the end of the book. Some names of the streets and magazines and newspapers and shops which I didn't know.
It's the author's style of writing. For example, Dickens's books are very difficult for me, and I prefer reading them in translation because I think that there are certain things that escape from our understanding, and that is the major difficulty that we can encounter when we read books in original.
But
okay. Well, it's not the whole podcast still. We should finish a little bit. First, before finishing, so let's discuss what we have just listened to. So it was about this kind of a club, reading club in Moscow, and students of this YES Club have been sharing their experience when reading a book in English. So what do you remember from what they have just said? So, Vitaly, will you start, please?
I remember that she's very enjoy of it because
who? I mean, one of the girls.
One of the girls, yes, and other boys too, because he told us about that he wanted one time to learn because of the interesting books, and the girls wanted to. She's very enjoyed to read, but she has the same problem as others, slangs. Words and if I remember the name of the magazines, right? Magazines and others, streets and others, because.
Okay, but what helped her to understand better those names of streets, magazines, and newspapers? What helped her to understand better, and actually what helped her to understand those names of streets? She could read better and she could understand better the plot due to some sort of vocabulary she had in the book.
Yeah, glossary. Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you, Vitali. Althea, will you add anything else? What have you been noting there? Writing down, I guess. Yeah? Come on, say something. Don't be shy. Do you have anything to say, Althea?
No, I quite agree with Vitaly and Valery also.
Come on, there was something else to add, so Valery, it's up to you to crown it all.
Well, one of the key points is that those people got real enjoyment, and one guy said that he had understood the book in the original even more and better than in the Russian language. Yes?
That's right.
Due to that book being in the original, which he read, he had an ability to understand it better.
Exactly. Good. Well, yep. I guess all the details have been mentioned. So slang, whereas another comment about Dickens' books in Fugality was really difficult to understand these books in English, so she preferred reading them in Russian translation. Slang, constructions, well, that's it. Anyway, they keep on trying, and actually the first guy who was sharing his experience, he said that at first he refused reading, he didn't want, but sometime later he just said to himself, well, if you like a book, so why not trying to read it in original? And it has good consequence, so he understood the plot much better, as Valery has just mentioned. Okay, thank you very much for coming and participating in our first class dedicated to books, reading books in original. Next week we'll listen to the second series of these podcasts. And
can I ask you some advice? Is it better to read in your voice or in your mind?
You mean aloud or mentally?
Yes, aloud, yes.
Well, it depends on what your objective is. If you want just to enjoy reading, I would advise you to not to read aloud, because if you do, that will make you tired very soon, because it's not that easy to read aloud for long. If you want to practice your speaking skills, that can help you. But if your aim is just to enjoy reading and perhaps get some vocabulary, well, don't read aloud. So you can try. So you someday can read aloud, but I'm not sure if you will be able to read for long. It's not easy. And if you another day you might read just mentally, to enjoy reading and to get to enrich your baggage of vocabulary.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. So guys, once thanks again for coming and participating in our small evening party.
Do you see new students, Maria?
No, I can see, yeah, well, but Maria, hello to you, but our class is over, and
hello and goodbye.
I'm obliged to say good night to you. So if you want to participate in our discussion, so you are very welcome at my class on Friday. I guess today is Wednesday, so well, on Friday we'll have another class, and you will have a possibility to share your experience and participate in our discussion. So thanks a lot for coming once again, and I wish you to have a nice evening. Sleep well. I hope Valery will have a possibility to sleep tight. have no insomnia.
Thank you.
Because you have to be in good shape to participate in our discussions next time, okay? And for the others, sweet dreams, and see you later. Bye bye for now.
Bye bye.
Bye.